This is a special presentation from UFC Fight Pass. Step into our world at UFCFightPass.com.
Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them, because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers!
From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China, and back to the streets of Las Vegas, where the UFC is coming. We are live as It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about, but may be afraid to voice. Don't worry. We'll talk about it for you. We talk about everything on It's Time. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics, film, TV, UFC, you name it, we've got it. And I'm here with my co-host and producer, TJ DeSantis. TJ, another week gone by, 2 weeks gone by, actually. Travel, everything else going on in our lives. And here we are. And you're looking a little frisky with the beard growth there. I don't think I've seen that much growth on your face in 17 years.
Yeah, no, I'm letting it flow a little bit. My Minnesota Twins are in the playoffs. They won their first playoff series since like 21 years. So like the last time they won a playoff series, I was 18 years old, Buff. I'm going to be 40 next month. So it's been pretty crazy.
Congratulations on that milestone.
Yeah. So I'm letting it grow a little bit. You can call it my playoff beard.
Yeah, no, isn't October the beard? Isn't that when Joe Rogan or I think some people were like, it's either sober
It's
month
November. It's November. Yeah, so October is sober October, and then November is no shave November.
Okay, cool. All right, very cool.
I need to
I'll
shave off. It looks terrible. Like you can see like the weird little like full goatee here, and then the rest is just basically gray at this point.
Well, it doesn't look terrible. Basically, you're not filling in where you're supposed to fill in.
No, it's there. It's just gray. Like, unfortunately, I went from like peach fuzz to just like fully gray.
Hey, as the saying goes, it happens, right?
I mean, not everyone could pull off the mustache like you did back in the 70s, 80s.
Oh, my Tom Selleck Magnum PI special.
Dude,
yeah,
that was awesome.
It's funny.
By the way, I'm going to put this on the show right now so people can see it. I posted this a couple weeks ago. You being a young, how old were you in this photo? This surfer photo?
The photo I think you're putting up, rather. Let's see, back then, I think I was right around 20, right around like 19,
okay.
20.
I mean, you just look like you're in the prime of your life there.
Well,
you look like you're singing for the Doors, to be honest with you. You look like a young Jim Morrison.
Yeah, you mentioned that. It's funny. I had my Rambo hair and the whole bit and just letting it flow, Hey, all I did is at that time, of course, it was school, was work. Actually, I might have been, 19. I was working the whole 9 yards and just surfing, I would surf and work and train martial arts, and that was it.
I'm surprised how jet black your hair is, being that you're, this California kid running around out in the
I used to get
SoCal
those
sun.
golden. I would get those golden streaks, like I have the gray right here. I would get like golden streaks,
right? Okay.
Just from the sun, being out in the sun so much, You're out in the water every day, salt water, living in Poseidon's playground, things happen, but it was, memorable times. That's for sure.
Good for you.
Yeah. Enjoyable. Thanks for the memories. I appreciate the post. So a lot of things going on this week. We're live streaming now, but we'll go over some questions from the audience and everything else. You want to go to the questions, or let's go through some news and save the questions for towards the end?
What would you like to do? Why don't we save the questions towards the end? We'll finish.
All right, go ahead, slam me with them. Let's go. Let's see what's up.
You want them now? Okay. All right, fine. We'll do that.
Oh, I thought you said the end. The end or now? Call it.
It's up to you. What do you want?
Let's go through the questions. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So basically, we were going to do this last week, and I was sick, unfortunately. So I've hoarded some, and then I found some other questions we had in my email that we didn't get to the last time we did a Q&A. So This first one goes back to the final days of Semaphore Entertainment Group. If people don't know, are you the longest surviving UFC employee at this point? Essentially,
I like the word. I like the word surviving. It's like it's been a war, which it has to a certain extent. Yes, I am. I don't know anybody else.
So
February will be
one,
28 years.
So you and I think Andrei Arlovsky are the only two people that still do work with the UFC and also got checks from Bob Meyerowitz and company back in the day with Semaphore. No one else probably got an SEG check, right? That's still there?
No, not that I know of. I mean, Joe Silva's gone. Joe Rogan.
Okay, Rogan. Yeah, you, Rogan, and Arlovsky. That makes sense.
Joe started about a year after I did.
How close was the UFC to going bankrupt? And before the Fertittas stepped in, like, were you counting the days? That's the question here.
Yes.
Really? So you thought it was over?
Not over, but I thought that we were on the precipice of being over, and I'll tell you why. Because we went from shows of like anywhere from 5 to 10,000 or more people at a crack, to I remember a show we had in Louisiana, which I think Lorenzo Fertitta was at with Dana at the time. I had no idea they were about to buy the place, but buy the organization. But there was maybe 1,500 people in the audience.
1,500?
And it was, yeah, I think we were really down to low numbers.
Wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was that event or an event before where Kevin Randleman was walking out for the main event and he slipped in the back on a pole.
Yeah, the pipe incident. Yeah.
Yeah, he fell back, knocked himself out, and I'm in the octagon, getting ready to announce, and I get told that right here in my IFB in my ear, I get told that he's been knocked out and there's no main event. And I had to present it to the audience. And like I said in my book, it was like cans and bottles time,
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Wasn't pranking.
I'm honestly surprised, where the UFC was running at that time and the fans and the raucous crowds that showed up, that there wasn't ever like just a straight up riot. I mean, there were riots at MMA shows. Thankfully, you never had one, get too crazy at the UFC. At least I know about.
Yes. And
did you do that show at Morongo? I think it was like Ultimate Athlete that ended in a riot.
Yeah, where the guy got stabbed by the octagon. And
I think there was a biker gang involved.
Yeah, it was the
Don't
Mongols.
say it. Don't say it. You already said it, but it's all right. Don't say it.
Okay. Whatever reason for that, but it was in the news. But I can't say what happened.
The Mongols, yeah.
Well, that's what was reported along with the people there. The Mongol motorcycle gang. The week before, for whatever reason, I don't quite remember, but I canceled my appearance at the show. So I was going to be there.
Wow.
Yeah, but there was, I was asked to do the show, but I did not do the show, whether it was contractual reasons or we didn't come to terms or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I was supposed to be there.
Yeah, I mean, those are the crazy days, right? Yeah. Well,
yeah, no. If I remember correctly, someone got stabbed, and I remember Cecil Peoples was protecting himself with a pen, and there was a lot of, if I remember correctly, Cecil's a warrior, the old referee and kickboxer, Cecil Peoples.
Yeah.
So I don't, anybody can look up that story on the web. Just look up, what was it, the Morongo Casino?
Yeah, it was Ultimate Athlete #2 was the event. Ultimate Athlete was a magazine at the time, and they did 2 MMA shows. And I think
I did do one of the Ultimate Athlete. I did do one of the Ultimate. Was that the one that was going to be on the ship at one time?
That was called Battleship. That never happened. Yeah. That never happened.
Back then there were so many MMA events.
Yeah.
Right. And I was being asked to do every single one of them, whether it was as little as in a cowboy bar in Arizona for I forget who it was. But Frank Shamrock, when he had a show back then, I remember that we were ring ropes and one fighter flew through the ring ropes into the audience and all these crazy times. Then we had one other event poor Frank did where we got rained out and we wound up going into an airplane hangar and having a couple of fights to appease the audience that showed up. I mean, there's so many wild times back in the old Western days of MMA, let's call it.
There was a show in the Midwest where the promoter owed a bunch of money in like back child support that he never paid, and the cops knew that he was putting on a show, and they waited for him to show up at his event, and they waited for everyone to buy tickets, and then once everyone was in and the show's about to start, the sheriff arrested the promoter and took all the gate money.
Great.
for the child support, and then there was no money to pay the fighters. So
yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't do that one. That's called no paycheck. That's why you always get paid half up front and half upon completion when you don't know who you're working for.
It depends. Yeah, exactly. You know who you're working for. You don't have to worry about it so much. Next question along those same lines. So when the Fertittas stepped in and Dana White was named the president, how familiar were you with Dana, and did you believe that he was the man for the job right away?
I knew Dana because Dana was managing Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell.
Right.
And after Dana stepped in, I got a call from Robert Meyerowitz one night. He said, I have good news and bad news. I said, well, what's the bad news? He goes, the bad news is I sold the UFC. The good news is I sold it to Dana White and the Fertitta brothers,
right?
Who I was familiar with, and that they want to keep you and Big John McCarthy. Everybody else is pretty much gone, which was great. I was sorry to hear that Robert was out, but at the same time, the UFC, as we discussed earlier, was on the verge of just going away.
Right.
Senator McCain started that whole campaign, and I'm very respectful of Senator McCain, for his service and everything. And I'm not saying anything bad about him, but he started that, used the term human cockfighting, and we were taken off TV. In Demand was the only one keeping us on. We went from a possible pay-per-view audience of 60+ million people to 16 million people. We were doing six-figure buys on UFC, 100,000+ pay-per-views down to God knows what.
And let's be honest. Let's be honest. McCain did the UFC a gigantic favor in the end.
In the end, it all came out that way.
Yeah. Because honestly, Bruce, do you think the UFC would have survived had they kept that no rules sort of mentality?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the fact the rules came in, the Dana White and the Fertittas came in and did everything they did with the financial backing, the marketing, everything they put behind it. Of course, they went through tough times, as we all know from history, that all the money put in, they were like 44 million in the hole, and give or take. And
yeah, they were close to pulling the plug pre-Ultimate Fighter.
Well, it was said that Lorenzo basically told Dana to try and sell it, and Dana got an offer for somebody to buy it. But then they rolled the dice on the Ultimate Fighter TV series, which the first season, was brought out. And of course, in the finale of the first season with the Stephan Bonner-Forrest Griffin fight, we went from if people understand view shares, from like a 5 to a 15 during that final fight. Dude. And like I always say, we made Spike, and Spike TV made us. And it was the upward mobility of the UFC from that point forward, becoming the rocket ship that it is today, under the amazing guidance of the Fertitta brothers and Dana White, who I consider to be a maverick businessman, similar to other spearheads, but definitely walking to his own tune. Without Dana White and the Fertittas, we would not be where we are today.
Think about how much changed in that 3-hour period of the live finale. Because it went into a show. It's just like, it's the cap of the Ultimate Fighter. Hopefully, we have some good fights. It was the first time that the UFC really had live fights on in prime time, and people don't even remember the main event of that night. Do you remember what the main event was?
Are you talking about the last tough finale?
Yeah. The first tough finale, yeah. Do you remember what the main event was?
Yeah, I told you earlier. Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner.
That wasn't the main event. Absolutely not.
That was excuse me. That was the ultimate. Pardon me. You're absolutely correct.
Right. Yeah,
that was
no one remembers the actual main event.
No,
that's how
we
good
don't,
that
because
fight
we just remember
was.
Forrest Griffin and Stephan. Look at me. I even said when the final fight came on, I said Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin. So refresh my memory. Who was it?
Rich Franklin versus Ken Shamrock.
Wow. Now I remember the fight, and interesting. It's funny how the memory pays off.
But that's what it was. It was the main. Forrest and Stephan made the whole night. So why even remember anything else?
Yeah, exactly. And if you watch that video, I am very composed when I'm in the octagon. I like to think so. But I lost it a little bit too. You see me jumping up in the air and screaming like a fan when Dana handed Stephan Bonner his 6-figure contract for the UFC, in addition to Forrest Griffin, who won the fight.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Amazing.
Still score that fight for Stephan, but that's me. All right. Ready for the next one?
Go.
Over the years, you've met a lot of fighters that have fought in the UFC. Who was the biggest dick? Who was the biggest badass? And who was the biggest poser? These are tough to say. I don't think you have to say names, Buff.
Let me just say this. I'm not going to go public and say who the biggest D was, okay?
Right.
I will say this. regards to that one question.
Can you maybe
I've
share
been
a
in the
story
UFC.
about someone that was a D without saying their name?
Let me just say this.
All right.
I've been in this sport for over 27 years. I believe the growth of the sport, as well as the, hockey athletes, that the mixed martial arts UFC athletes are the most humble, approachable athletes, as I think everybody in the UFC organization is, which has a lot to do with how the public has come in and become warm in the hearts and minds of the, different demographics and younger generation, love the UFC. With supposedly from the 18 to 34 demographic, well over 75% of males are fans of the UFC. It's an amazing statistic, along with people that watch it. So I've met maybe, if you want to call them D's, A-holes, whatever, I can count less on one hand in that 20.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Years.
You think? I mean, there's like 600 athletes right now under contract. So the fact that you're saying less than 5.
All the athletes all the athletes I've met over the years is far, far beyond that.
That's what I'm saying. Like just now with all the fighters under contract, you'd think you'd at least be able to come up with 5 names. But if you can't, over the 27 years, that says something about the athlete.
Exactly. What are the other 2 besides the D's?
The biggest badass.
If it's like asking me who the greatest fighter is, what the greatest fight is.
I guess maybe this is more like a guy that like commanded the most respect when he walked in a room.
Again, there's so many of them. I mean, you want to give me an example? Want me to give you an example of a few?
Yeah.
I mean, every warrior commands respect when they walk in the room, and it's also about how they handle.
Let me ask you this:
it's about,
for example, we had Sean Strickland on live at UFC X recently, and he was just geeking out over Don Fry. Like, is there a fighter that you can recall where when they walk in the room, other fighters start to sort of fanboy out?
Okay, Don Fry's definitely one.
Yeah,
Chuck Liddell is definitely one. George St. Pierre is definitely one. Right? And I could go on and on and on. I really could. There's a lot. I respect all fighters. They all command respect for being the warriors they are in the loneliest sport that there is after that cage door closes. But certain people are, you're just in awe of certain people when they walk in. Like you'd be in awe in boxing of Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali walking into the room.
Yeah. And then the last one was who was the biggest poser? Like who tried to put off an air like they were Billy Badass, but turned out not to be.
Turned out not to be?
Yeah, it turned out not to be. I know.
That's really tough. And I don't want to call anybody a poser because there's certain things I won't do in like Tito. Tito did I just say Tito? I didn't mean to say that.
Okay, all right.
TJ. And I wasn't referring
maybe?
to Tito as anything.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to show disrespect. It's okay. That's a perception is reality question. Right. And I think that's up for the individual that's being asked it and for every fan out there to make that decision for themselves.
And let's be honest, Buff, if you're willing to step in the octagon with another trained assassin, essentially, you're not a poser. You've got
you're not a poser. How can you call a fighter a poser?
Yeah. I agree.
When you walk into a room, listen, when my dad, when I was young and I would walk in the room, and I said this before on the show, even at 5 years old, I go, "Hi, Dad." He goes, "Son, project your voice, shoulders back, chest out. Let them know you're in the room." Right?
Right. Yeah.
That's just, I have no problem with that. I mean, that was great training for me to walk in.
Sure.
You want to walk in a room like you own it. You want to walk in a room, but you want to be respectful to everybody around you at the same time. That's the way I work. That's the way I live. I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I can only live by my own ethics.
Let me ask you this. When you meet people just in your day-to-day life, because I get this a lot, people will say, "Oh, are you feeling okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And they're like, "Well, you're not your normal self." And it's like, no, what you don't understand is I'm talking to you like a normal human being. I'm not going, now we're going to lunch, and then later we're going to go do this. Coming up next, it's food on our table. Like, do you ever get the, not like a letdown from people, but people that don't understand that you're not always, ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
That's me walking in the octagon. I'm still Bruce Buffer, but I've got a microphone in my hand.
Right, of course.
And I'm performing when you're in a room. I mean, people listen to the podcast, and I'll look at some quotes sometimes when we post up the podcast, and they'll say, "Oh, gee, I didn't know Bruce spoke like that," or listen to the way he normally speaks. I can't walk around talking like this all day long.
Dude,
you know, pass the salt. You know, it's not the way it works.
Buff, I would not produce this podcast if you were on like that 24/7. I'd be like, I can't handle it.
I wouldn't be happy with myself. I'd probably drive myself crazy. So all good.
TJ, how are you? Well, I'm great,
Yeah,
Bruce.
no.
Dude.
No, when the voice needs to be used, it's used.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'll go back to my dad. I'll go back to my dad again. He was a drill sergeant in the Marine Corps, served in World War II in Korea, but he was a drill sergeant, you know, at Camp Pendleton, taught hand-to-hand combat, brig warden, the whole bit. But he did tell me when the soldier would line up, you know, all his recruits, you know, and he'd have to talk to him and whatever. And he admitted, because half of them could knock him down, right? Even though my dad was tough as nails.
Well, but you want that. You want that out of your soldiers, right?
Yeah, but his voice commanded attention.
For sure.
And his voice, it's like even when you're in an altercation potentially or somebody's coming at you, you can almost stop it with your voice if you handle it correctly.
Oh, yeah. Because that's the thing. Your voice can be a weapon in a lot of ways. I mean, your voice is an intimidation factor, for sure. You know? So
Better that than getting into a brawl.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. All right. Last question about meeting athletes. There's that famous story that Conor McGregor came up to you and said, I'm going to be in the UFC one day. You're going to call my name. The question is, do you actually remember that situation?
Yes, I do. I even posted about it. Absolutely do. You know, some people have that it factor even before they perform and create the it factor to the public.
But I mean, how many people have said that to you, honestly, Bruce, over the years? I'm sure plenty.
Yeah, many have. And I honestly remember Conor. And there was another individual that also made it into the octagon. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but I remember. God, I'm brain farting here for a second. The answer to that question is yes. I've heard that many times, but there have been obviously more than once when it's happened. With Conor McGregor, of course, being the standout.
Maybe Conor stood out because he was,
and it was in
Irish,
Dublin, Ireland. It's
you know
our first show in Dublin, Ireland that I met
him.
him. First show, right there.
And the way that Conor speaks might stick out, might be more memorable as well. But you're right. I mean, the guys had that sort of engaging sort of presence long before he ever threw a punch in the octagon.
Well, one thing about Conor, you know, he looks you right in the eye.
Right.
You can tell the intensity. I mean, I definitively remember that. Absolutely.
That's crazy. All right. And then this is a question from me, Buff, and it's near and dear to my heart. And I want your opinion on it. We've had a few instances over the last couple of years in mixed martial arts where I think it's sort of reared its head. You've been in the UFC for a very long time. You've seen the rules change for a very long time, up until 2001. So basically the first 8 years or so of the UFC, you were allowed to knee the head of a downed opponent. Unified rules came in, said no to that. Now we have athletes playing the game where they put their hand on the mat so they can't get kneed in the head. You know, there's a sort of situation where a position is a defense. We see that from Aljamain Sterling. Sterling took a pretty bad knee from Peter Yan. I don't think it's a knee he would have taken had it been legal because he wouldn't have hung out there. And I also think that we need to implore the fact that a fighter should defend themselves at all times. And right now, with the rule not being allowed to throw a knee to the head of a downed opponent, athletes aren't defending themselves at all times because they think they're safe. Would you be in favor of reinstituting the rule where you're allowed to knee the head of a downed opponent?
Sorry, I'm taking long to think about that. You know, I'm going to say no.
Why?
Safety factor.
Okay, so a knee in the floor is more dangerous than a knee in the plum? There's no way that's true.
No,
knee in the plum,
that's not true,
knee in the plum, pulling the head down, knee, there's way more force exerted there than on the floor.
No, you're right. You're right. I just always think safety first when I think about fighters. You know, in the base of what you just said, if they can knee standing up and they can knee down, yeah, but obviously there's points to the head that you cannot knee.
Of course, but that's the same everywhere. You can't knee to the back of the head, the mohawk. I mean, and
the back of the head. But what about right here?
Again, you choose your knees carefully. Like don't target that point. It's the same thing with hammer fists. It's the same thing with strikes from the mount. When people go belly down, you're not allowed to hit the back of the head. Like it's the same thing.
On the basis of what you're talking and thank you for saying what you said. When you consider the force trauma of the knee strike from above, whether it's, when
Just for me, Buff, it's very hard for me to believe the idea that there's more danger on the floor when you have to control your opponent to deliver that knee in a way that you're supporting your own body weight when you're doing it. I just don't see that knee being more dangerous, and I think the fact that fighters believe they are safe and they're not defending themselves because of the position is more dangerous than not having the rule.
Yeah. So you're talking about at the point when all 4 points are down on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even all 4 points. It's just
Even
right
if it's
now,
one hand down on the
just
ground.
think about the rule. The rule would be there is no rule that says you can't throw a knee, so you're allowed to be kneed in the head at any point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple to me. It's safer.
It's about the referees and the amazing job they do keeping the fighters safe.
Yeah, but here's the thing: no one's going to take a bunch of knees on the floor in that position. They're not. They're going to move.
No.
You shoot in, you get sprawled out on the way that Aljamain Sterling did against Peter Yan. He's going to move to his butt. He's going to try to get to his guard. He's going to try to scramble. He's going to try to get up. You don't sit there. You don't sit there in a turtle position when someone has a front headlock and tries to knee you. People can say, Mark Coleman and Alon Goez in Pride. Yeah, Mark Coleman was 50 pounds heavier than him. Short of that,
okay,
it's ridiculous. It's just not a real thing.
In that respect, I'm okay with it. And one thing I will not be okay with, which would never, ever get reinstated.
Don't you dare say soccer kicks, because it has nothing to do with this conversation. Everyone brings up soccer kicks.
Not going to say soccer kicks.
Good.
This isn't Pride. I'm talking about headbutts. As fascinating as it was when Mark Coleman.
Too. No, we don't need headbutts. No,
that'll never come back. As far as what you're saying is the way
headbutts are not a practical thing. Like here's the thing. Here's the issue with a headbutt. You're not allowed to throw a headbutt anytime ever. Why are you allowed to throw a knee to the head on the feet and not on the floor? When I'm sorry, like people say, it's more dangerous on the floor. Please get those pressure sensors and deliver knees to grappling dummies from the plum, and then deliver knees from the front headlock on the floor, and show me that it's more dangerous than the floor, because I just don't believe it.
All right, TJ, in reference to your question, in reference to your explanation, and of course I'm very open-minded, yes. I'm going to go with you and say I'm okay with it.
I think I can convince everybody.
Okay, done. Next question.
That's it. That's all the questions, Buff.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. We cover it? All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Pardon me if I didn't answer, a couple of things, but I have certain rules in my own way of dealing with life.
I think those are good questions.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Let's go on to some news here. Let's see. This whole smash and grab situation is getting worse and worse and worse. And Target now, they're closing 9 stores in major cities across 4 states, and one reason only: the theft and the organized crime. It's just too much. I hate seeing this all the time. And now, did you hear about what happened October 1st here in LA County? I forget if we talked about it in a previous show.
Well, no.
The
October 1st was like 4 days ago. So
the no bail rule.
No. What is this?
You get arrested now. Uh-huh. And, depending on the crime, obviously not a very serious crime, God forbid, like murder or such. But let's say the smash and grab people going in and out of the stores. They go in jail, arrested. What is the term? Booked. And it's free bail. They don't post bail. It's free bail.
What? That can't be right. There's something we're missing here.
Look it up right now.
No bail? There's got to be some sort of bond or something. Because what's the incentive to not run on that? You know what I mean?
Check it while we're talking. Here it is right now. Defendants charged with minor offenses, misdemeanors, and certain felonies wouldn't need to pay bail to secure their pretrial release. Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. The injunction prohibits officials from requiring bail for certain low-level offenses from arraignment. It does not apply to serious, violent, or those ineligible for bail. To me, I mean, if you are taking over a store with a mob of people and doing a smash and grab, that's not a innocuous crime. That takes strategy. To me, that's violent. There's some intimidation going on there. There's the sense of terror that you're instilling. I mean, again, I'm not a legal expert here. I don't know the law, but I would make an argument if I was a district attorney that is not a low-level criminal offense. That is organized, planned, plotted, and very much not one of those low-level offenses. I mean, it's one thing if you're stealing a bottle of toothpaste, in your jacket and you get arrested. It's another thing if you're going into Louis Vuitton with 15 other people and trying to grab everything you can.
No argument there, but now when this is passed, there's 12 cities in LA County that are going to fight it. They don't want it. They don't want to have it, and I know this is actually in effect in some other states around the country. So I don't know if it's benefited or done whatever, but it just doesn't seem right to me.
To me, I mean, you should just have that be up to the district attorney.
I agree.
Make it something across the state that you give them the option to do or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, common sense is like, look, like if you're just trying to get some bread for your family and you're literally getting arrested for stealing a loaf of bread, I'm not going to make you post bail. But if you are stealing a Louis Vuitton handbag, yeah, dummy. You're
if there's any violence, and also if anybody gets hurt, if there's any violence of that, then everybody involved in that situation should be responsible.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're inciting a riot at that point almost. You know what I mean? Like, it's a raucous, riotous, smash and grab type of situation. I mean, yeah.
It's just very disturbing even to think about, what's going on. And I hate to say this because I'm not a pessimist, but things are going to probably get a little worse,
Well, I mean, what's that old saying? It's got to get worse before it gets better.
The saying goes, watch your six. When you're out, watch your six. Be careful. Right. All right. Let's not stay too on the negative. I know we have a tendency to do that, but we got to talk about the reality of what's going on.
Don't lump me in with
I know. Did you hear about the 41-year-old woman that was found dead after the alligator was spotted with her body in its mouth?
I guess we're not getting to a positive story, but
no. But I mean, in Florida, I wonder how many alligator attacks happen every year in Florida.
Honestly, I think probably more than we even think about. There are certain instances where we hear about people, being reported missing, and then we never, hear from them again. I think about what about the people that are missing that don't necessarily have family, or people that are homeless, and they end up getting killed by an unfortunate incident. I remember somebody fell off a bridge in Minnesota when I was young into the Mississippi River during the middle of winter. Froze to death and drowned, and no one knew anything about it for the longest time. And those situations, I think, happen a lot because there isn't someone reporting a homeless person not coming home at night. You know what I mean? And you talk about, Florida, you're living, in precarious situations if you don't have a home. Those gators are everywhere, man.
What a crazy thing, though, to come upon an alligator with a human being that's in its mouth.
Yeah.
13-footer. 13-footer.
You know what's terrifying to me? It's the wonders of things like TikTok where people can just, record anything and throw it up. I had no idea how fast some of those alligators are. They're not
tremendously
just,
fast.
Slow.
No. Fast. Fast swimmers.
If you're an elderly person and you're like on a walk and you come up upon a gator and you startle it, it's going to get the jump on you. You better hope that it runs away from you. It doesn't run towards you.
Listen, alligators, like a great white shark, are some of the most prehistoric,
Oh, yeah.
What is alligators considered? Not mammal.
They're a reptile.
Reptile, excuse me.
Yeah.
Reptile, it's crazy. It's
like any predatory animal, they have that same fight or flight instinct, right? So when you come upon it, it's the same thing like coming upon a mountain lion. Either you're going to scare it away and it's going to decide to run, or it's going to go into attack mode.
Well, how about this? Singapore Airlines, right?
Please don't tell me
a 13-hour flight.
No, Buffer.
Pardon
please
me?
Don't tell me there were snakes on a plane or something like that. That's my biggest.
No,
fear.
not snakes on a plane. Actually, that has happened, but not like snakes on a plane. But it has happened where a snake has been found on a plane. But getting away from that, Singapore Airlines refund passengers $1,400. You know why?
Why?
For 13 hours on a flight, they were getting gassed by a couple of passengers, four-legged flatulence. There were dogs on the plane.
Oh, I take
that were releasing gas so much that the smell on the plane was just too much. For 13 hours, people had to deal with that.
Yeah,
right?
I've got 2 English Bull Terriers, and I think I could sue them for punitive damages for what they've caused me.
Actually, that looks like the animal here that was doing the duty.
What, a Bull Terrier?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the picture right now.
What does it look like?
It was so wait, the bull terrier, with the smashed little face, and
Smashed little
isn't that a
face?
bull terrier?
No, bull terrier
It's
is a
got the,
target dog, like Spuds McKenzie.
okay, no, not that. It doesn't
You're thinking
actually
like
say
a
the dog. I'm
bulldog.
looking. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Boy, Bruce, get it together here.
It's all right.
It was like a little bulldog combination, whatever. But anyway, it was in first class. So actually, first class people actually gave up their premium seats and moved back to economy.
Dang.
That's how
On a
bad it was in a
13-hour
13-hour flight. On a 13-hour flight.
Wow. And
Crazy,
these must have been
crazy
like
times.
support dogs, right? Because otherwise they would have been, in the.
Well, you have to be a support. You have to be a support dog to be on a plane, don't you?
No, you can cargo your dog. You can kennel your dog.
You can cargo the dog. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. All different.
Yeah, so if it's in
size.
the
Well,
cabin,
anyway,
it's
they
got to
were.
be like a support animal.
Well, is what it is. I'm happy to see that the Hollywood studios gave their best offer. All these strikes are coming to an end. Thank God.
Yeah, finally.
And
finally.
speaking of Hollywood, I watched Denzel Washington's Equalizer 3 the other night. They just made it to cable, the recently released movie.
Yeah.
It is so good, TJ. It is such a good movie. Set differently than the previous ones. Excellent plot, human interest, the whole bit.
Denzel's great. My favorite Denzel film is still Training Day. I love that film.
Great movie.
Yeah. King Kong ain't got shit
And-
on me. That's amazing.
I know. No, he's an amazing actor.
I just watched something that you recommended recently, that HBO documentary about telemarketers.
Wild, huh?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy business.
I was in
Check that out.
telemarketing. We all know that I own companies in my 20s. I never did anything like that. That's
Yeah,
just
I mean
horrid.
that's shady as heck. So
Yeah, it's a very interesting documentary. Did you catch the Oscar De La Hoya documentary?
I have not.
Really good. Very good. Very
All right.
open about a lot of things in that documentary. A lot of things you were not aware of, and if in
How's
any way it
Dana feel
interests
about
you.
it? That's what I'm curious. How's Dana feel?
I bet Dana didn't even watch it. I don't know.
Of course not.
Who knows?
Of course.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story which people are maybe not aware of. Hey, do you know anybody that drives a Hyundai or a Kia?
Not personally, but I mean I see them everywhere.
They've recalled 3.3 million vehicles
Oh wow.
to park outside. Do you know why?
Why?
Because the risk they catch fire.
That's not new. I remember we were talking about this. I can't remember what make and model it was, but I actually, you know what? I have an Audi, and my Audi got recalled for the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a very quick fix. It was just like a sensor that they had to change. But I don't know if this is as big of an issue as you might think. Like, yes, the volume is insane.
3.3 million? That's a lot of cars.
Yeah, well, sure. It's probably every car they've made in the last, so many years. But it might not be a recall where it's like, the car you can't have anymore. It's just you got to come in and we'll replace a quick sensor. But I mean, anything where your house might start on fire because you park it in a garage is terrifying.
No, absolutely. No question. The NFT situation, I told you when it first came out, and for people that don't know what NFTs are, maybe you do. What is it? Non-functional? What is the term?
Something
NFT?
token. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, non-functional token. You can't hold it. You can only see it. It's
I don't think it's non-functional, but it's something like that.
let's see. It's a digital asset. What is the term?
We
NFT
know what
mean?
it is. We know what it is, Buff. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a non-fungible token. That's what the term
Fungible,
is.
yeah, like non-functional
Fungible.
token. Yeah.
Not non-functional, non-fungible. Okay.
When you say non-functional,
And I think a lot of
it's more of an opinion, which
right.
I may or may
well,
not.
they've dropped in value tremendously. A lot of it has to do with the crypto world.
Yeah, I again, when we were talking about it at its boom point during the pandemic, I still didn't understand it. I don't understand it now.
I was offered NFTs of myself. I never did one. I'm actually happy I did not do one. I wouldn't like somebody to spend that kind of money and then suddenly not be worth anything. But here's an example. Logan Paul, who traded a lot of NFTs, he's a buddy. I'm not saying anything bad about Logan Paul, but one of the ones he bought, he paid $623,000 for it. It's called an Azuki NFT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And today it's worth $10.
$10.
$10.
Wow.
What a drop.
I mean,
at
here's
press
the issue.
time.
We've talked about this. Like, this is a collectible, and I'm sorry, I don't understand a collectible that I can't hold. You know what I mean? Like, it's similar to like, oh, do you want to buy some land on Mars? No. What am I going to do with land on Mars? I'm not going to Mars. I don't really own anything, right? Like, I don't know, whatever.
I don't know, but those of you that have NFTs out there, if you don't know already, then check it because quite crazy. And on the other end, you've got an NFT that's a collectible. Now let's talk about a collectible that you can hold in your hand.
Okay.
Right? A $10,000 bill from the Great Depression just sold for $480,000.
That's more than $10,000.
You got sports collectibles out there, which we talk about all the time on the show. They're going value. I still say, if I can't see it physically,
right,
hold it, or put it on my wall, I'm not going to buy it.
I agree with you.
Right?
Wholeheartedly.
I can't trust that.
Yeah, because I
can't trust that at all.
There's no, because that's the other thing too, and I don't know if this is even possible, Bruce, but I've always worried about the idea that you spend all this money on this NFT and then someone hacks your account and steals it. You know what I mean? You're not like you can definitely break into someone's house and try to steal something, but you have more say over that, right? Like you're not a cybersecurity expert. If you buy this NFT that, sits in an account and someone breaks into your account and steals it, that's a lot different than, the memorabilia that you have in your home. And just too many risk factors, I think, with that stuff for me.
Let me give you another example. Princess Diana, who's passed, of course, did a lot of great things for the world. The black sheep sweater, first worn by her when she attended a polo match in 1981 when she was engaged to King Charles, was in the Star Lot at Sotheby's, which is the big auction house, fashion icons auction, where they auction off a lot of stuff. Okay. The final price was, it was jumping from $190,000 at the final price in the last 15 minutes. Guess how much it fetched?
I'll say $400,000.
$1.143 million.
Wow.
For a sweater.
Wow.
Staggering. We've heard of Marilyn Monroe's dress and everything. I'll get back to it. I mean, collectibles, if you collect in the right way, if you buy the right items, you can make a lot of money on them. Very great investments.
Yeah.
Now
you bought a dead lady's sweater. It's very strange.
Well, I could go on and on. We talked about collectibles. I'm going to mention some because they're so weird. Whether it's Britney Spears blowing a snot rag, and the snot rag sells for $3,500 or something like that online, to some others I can mention. It's amazing out there what people buy.
I get game-worn jerseys and things like that. It's a part of history. But someone's just like personal clothing that they wore. Like,
there's something for everybody out there. It's just staggering.
How
the
much
Jordan
can I get
jersey
for this Pizza Planet shirt? As seen on the Bruce Buffer podcast. I bought it for
sign
$10.
Sign it and put it online. Who knows? I know what my stuff sells for when it's out there. Go to eBay and just look up your name on eBay. Let's see if anything is there that's being auctioned of yours. I get fascinated by some of the stuff up there. I can't believe I can believe some of the prices going for my the many trading cards of me out there, the new Paninis down to the 1999 released or 2009 released Topps trading cards. I've told you before, back that first box of Topps trading cards of UFC cards.
Yeah.
Paid like $75 for it. It's like $3,500 plus.
I know, it's crazy.
The cases of the Series 2, the UFC cards are released by Topps. I bought 2 cases for $650. They're selling for like $15,000 plus on the internet now, and they're selling.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. Now here's a crazy story. OnlyFans, of course. OnlyFans. I'm not saying you look at it.
Yeah,
of OnlyFans. Okay, thank you.
It's a rhetorical question at this point.
Okay. So Paulo Costa has a site on
OnlyFans.com/TJ DeSantis to sign up and get all my material.
You said that so fast I didn't even hear it.
I was joking that I have an OnlyFans. I don't.
Paulo Costa has an OnlyFans site.
Right.
But a Minneapolis police officer.
Oh, you just did one of my biggest pet peeves. Is it Minneapolis or is it Indianapolis? Because you both just said, but you said both things. Minneapolis.
It's being referred to as Minneapolis Police
Minneapolis.
Department.
Say it one more time. Minneapolis.
Am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, you said
Minneapolis.
You said Mindianapolis, which is what people do all the time. I don't know.
Wait, let me say it again. Minneapolis.
Right. Originally, if people want to hit back up on the podcast, You originally
Is that
said
how it came out?
Mindianapolis, which
Right.
I lived in Minneapolis for 30 years. Every time I landed there was an 80% chance a flight attendant would say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Twin Cities of Mindianapolis and St. Paul. It's like, no, it's
Gotcha.
Minneapolis.
Okay, so it comes out that way real quick. Uh, this man stopped by a traffic officer or a police officer for a traffic ticket, and he recognizes her because he was watching her having sex online on OnlyFans.com the week before. So she got outed.
I wouldn't
Hey,
admit
people have
that
a right
if
to
I
do
was
it.
a cop, I guess, but that's weird.
Well, it's the story that came out. I don't know if it actually will cause her. Maybe it's a violation of
You think
her
it's real? You
moral.
think that? I mean, that's a great way to get people to sign up for your OnlyFans, right?
It's not that she's reporting; it's being reported on the news.
Yeah, but who put it out there? I don't think the cop did.
The only report from her officers is that department policy for business duty officers, many work that's
Yeah,
not
but
compatible
who
with
called
police
the
work.
media? Who called the media?
I don't know.
Because I don't think the police officer that said apparently this violates, the code of conduct is going to call the news in Minneapolis and be like, hey, I just want to let you know what I did today. I ran into someone that I was, paying for their OnlyFans last week, and I let them out
Well,
of a
supposedly
ticket.
he reported it to Fox 9 in Minneapolis.
The cop did?
No, the man that was stopped reported
Oh,
it.
it's a man. See, here I go, assuming that it was a woman that was stopped.
No, it was a man that was stopped, and it was a female police officer that stopped him.
Wait,
and according
the female, who has the OnlyFans? He does?
No, you're not getting this.
I'm not.
The female officer has an OnlyFans site, according to what's being reported here, which he reported to Fox 9, and now she's being probed for conduct violations by the Minneapolis PD.
Because she's not allowed to have an OnlyFans?
Well, it could be a violation of conduct violations because, as they like to say, that, the police, she's not supposed to do anything that's not compatible with police work, which includes working at any establishment that provides adult entertainment in the form of nude, semi-nude, or topless exhibitions, which would be like if off duty she worked at a dance club.
But OnlyFans is not an establishment.
That's why she's being probed. They're trying to make a decision to what is right.
Don't say that she's being probed anymore, Buffer. People are going to run wild with that.
I didn't mean it that way. This is just the term that they use.
I know. I just said it to be funny.
Right, I'll leave that one on. I'll leave that one on you.
Here's the thing. Honestly, you know what's going to happen? She's going to end up leaving the police department and making more money on OnlyFans.
Well, from what I hear about people on OnlyFans for whatever they do, whether it's that or even lighter, there's a lot of money being made there, as we've discussed on the show before. TJ, there's a UFC in Vegas. I'll be there in Vegas this weekend.
Oh yeah.
For the Fight Night show, should be a really good one. Again, we have not championship fights or anything like that, but it's Bobby Green and Grant Dawson.
Yeah, I mean,
it was enjoyable.
That would be on a short list for Fight of the Night on any card. So yeah, makes sense. That's the main
event.
The fight be worth people's time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the fights. Karolina Kowalkiewicz is fighting Diana Belbita. That should be a good fight. Iwan Kudalaba, who I always enjoy announcing. You never know what he's going to do before a fight. While I'm announcing him, it's fun to watch him in the octagons fighting Felipe Lins.
He turns you into one part octagon announcer, other part bouncer.
Yeah, I actually look forward to it. It's funny. Crazy about me. Most announcers would stand still, but I mean, it's he walks right across. He gets in your space. So all good there.
Ooh, I got one more question before you get out of here too. Just came in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question is, no doubt you have inspired many announcers over the years that have, oh my goodness, turn that off. You've inspired many announcers over the years that have definitely borrowed from your style. Have you borrowed from anyone's style, and who has impressed you or inspired you over the years? Man,
well, I think the answer is kind of obvious, but I will answer it this way. My brother, who I managed, when we met late in life, 4 years later became his manager, Michael Buffer, the legendary greatest announcer of all time. He changed the ring announcing world when he took over with his James Bond debonair style and his magnificent voice, doing what he does. When I got into announcing, the first thing I wanted to say is I wasn't phrase driven. I didn't want to be Michael Buffer or Frank Sinatra Jr., as I always say it, with all respect to Frank Sinatra Jr. I wanted to be Bruce Buffer and recognized for my own style. So I didn't look to copy Michael's style except for the class factor that he brings in and what he does. I learned from him. I was busy working those first 7 to 10 years or number of years creating a style. And I told myself, if I didn't create my own style, be recognized for my own style, I was going to quit. In like 3 years, I would just leave it alone. I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to be the guy riding a coattails. I'm the guy that sews the coattails on as his manager and protector of the great phrase, let's get ready to rumble. So with that being said, Michael, actually, I asked him for advice when I started. He said, the best advice I can give you is watch yourself on video. So there wasn't any other announcer in the announcing game that I'm not saying this with disrespect, that blew me away, that I thought I needed to acquire or adapt to the way they did it. I just simply went in with the attitude that it's not what I say, it's how I say it. And I wasn't phrase driven. I didn't even create the phrase "it's time." I didn't even start that at the end of the show in the main event. I didn't even start that for some 6-7 years, into my announcing.
Yeah.
I got into that after the Fertittas and Dana bought the show. I used to say at the top of the show.
You correct me if I'm wrong. It used to stem from, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the ultimate
It's time for the ultimate fighting championship. I used to say at the top of the show. And when I went into Vegas for the Godfather meeting with Dana, when we went over everything, he asked that I don't do that anymore. I said, fine, I'll adapt. He told me the greatest 2 announcements he ever heard was Riddick Bowe and Holyfield 1, which Michael announced. And he said the best announcement he ever heard me ever announce was Tito Ortiz and Evan Tanner in Atlantic City. And he wanted me to maintain that same energy, get a little less wordy, which I appreciated, because I'm all about energy and I'm all about putting out as much passion and energy as I can every night that I announce. And the moment I can't do that, the moment I physically can't do and passionately do what I love to do, then that's the time you're going to hear that I'm going to retire. But that's not going to be for a long time.
But that's
my
the
passion
thing.
keeps growing stronger than that.
I think that's the thing that's interesting about you, Bruce, is like, sure, there's probably inspiration in certain areas, but there was no one that was doing what you were doing, so you couldn't even find an example necessarily. You had to make one.
Yeah, and in relation, thank you, TJ, I appreciate that. And in relation to your question, when they say people are copying me, people always just try to copy my brother. I'm more physical, and I adapt the way I do, and I guess I've seen videos and things have been sent to me, and what do they say? Imitation is the height of flattery.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
mean, there's literally
But
a
the
guy that
advice
goes
I
to
give
every city and just tries to do your impression. I see this guy.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I know. Nothing to be said about there. More power to him. Wish him all the best. But what I do say in relation to him is when people say, well, I want to be in announcing, what advice can you give me? And I would tell them, look at all the people around you, take from them, but create your own style. Okay? Be recognized for your own style. You're never going to get to the peak of a career by copying and being somebody else. You'll never be recognized for you. So you want to be recognized for you. And that's what's most important.
I agree.
So there you go. Answer your question.
Boom.
All right. So I'm off to Vegas. You're off to whatever. Football-wise, all I can tell you is that we're still in the first. This is week 5 coming up. It's been easy but difficult to pick some picks. But Philadelphia's jamming. Miami's jamming. San Francisco's jamming. There's been some really cool games. I couldn't believe the way the New York Giants played last week on Monday night. But it is what it is. And football's happening, so enjoy it.
Yeah. I watch football on Saturdays. It's college football.
Yeah. Oh, Henry's at the University of Oregon. Boy, they're powerful. They're just going crazy. Really.
Are they joining the Big Ten next year? I think they're joining the Big Ten.
I heard rumor about that fact. I think it's great if they do.
Yeah. I mean, UCLA
I definitely want to work
and USC are for sure.
Yeah. Definitely want to work my way into the University of Oregon football stadium. I would love to go up there and announce. I'm going to talk to the head of entertainment, see if I can make that happen while Henry's going to school there. Obviously, I'll be there for 4 years, but this year or next year, try to make it happen.
There you go.
Let's see what's up. Some exciting things coming up. I can't mention them until they're become public. But some really good stuff coming up. It's Time Cologne, by the way, I'm happy to say, is still top seller on Amazon. Puncher's Chance. We're coming out with a new brand of Puncher's Chance called the Unified Belt, which will be out this month, as a limited edition of 2,000 cases.
Very nice.
Puncher's Chance, let me show it. The Undisputed, the new one, the single barrel.
Yep.
Platinum Award right out of the gate. Selling like hotcakes, folks. Go to puncherschancebourbon.com, put in your zip code, and you can find every store in your area where you can get yourself a bottle and salute the great UFC fighters as they're walking into the octagon Saturday night and take a shot. Enjoy.
There you go.
So as it goes, puncher's chance. Take your
Right.
shot.
Take your shot.
All right,
I
I've
like
showed enough for myself. Thank you, everybody. The Cameo videos coming in, the requests you're sending for videos and audios into brucebuffer.com. You're keeping me busy as busy can be. Love every moment of it. Thank you so much. Partial proceeds go to charity, and we're doing everything we can to make everybody happy. There you go. All right, TJ. My shill time is over. Your time is on. Go for it.
I'll be brief. At TJ DeSantis on all social media platforms. If you're dumb enough to buy Cameo from me, cameo.com/TJ DeSantis. So far,
Not the way to sell.
No one has.
Not the way to sell, TJ.
All right.
There's a video Arnold Schwarzenegger just put out on the internet yesterday. I wish everybody would watch it. He talks about the fact that actors in the 70s and 80s refused to do promo for their movies coming out, thinking that, whatever. The bottom line is, if you have something to sell, if you have something to tell, it does not get noticed unless you promote it. Promote it and promote it with confidence. And that's why you started doing it. And that's why you want people to buy it or people to appreciate it. So promote with positivity and confidence. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm just on brand, Buff. That's my brand.
Okay. On brand. That's your brand. I'm going to give you some coaxing, TJ. We're going to pick up that brand a bit.
All right. In other
right,
news,
so-
I am working the theater in Madison Square Garden coming up on November 9th. Callum Walsh, he takes on Ishmael Villarreal, WBC U.S. silver title on the line. Obviously, a couple days before you're going to be doing the big room at Madison Square Garden, but as a broadcaster, it's a pretty big deal for me. Tom Loeffler giving me an opportunity to probably call the biggest card of my fight career, and very excited for that. So, yeah, there you go.
And while I'm in New York, we were talking about that, but I've got to go in on Thursday. I have puncher's chance appearances at 2 locations in New Jersey on Thursday and Friday, which will probably prevent me from being at Callum's fight on Friday night. But if there's any way I can work it out to be there, I will. It's a very busy week, and I go to Brazil the week before.
The fight is Thursday, unfortunately. So maybe you can make it, maybe you can't. I don't know.
You know what? I probably could. So we'll talk about that offline.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out Thursday. That way I can get my job done Friday.
Front row, save for Buff.
Nope. I appreciate that. No, I look forward to it. It's going to be a very, very busy week. And then the F1 is the following week, and we'll see if I have any involvement in that.
All right, good.
Big event in Vegas. Big event in Vegas. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, TJ. Buff. All right, always enjoyable. Thanks for the questions. If I stumbled on a couple of them or, wasn't willing to answer, again, it's all out of respect for the greatest warriors in the world, right? As the saying goes, TJ, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, simple as that. So with everything nice to say, everybody, hope you have a great week. I'll see you from the Octagon on Saturday on the fight night, UFC Fight Night from the UFC Apex in Vegas. And be back next week with another show. Big cheers, no fears, everybody. When you set your goals, write them down before you set on that yellow brick road to success in your future. Just be the best you can be, whether you're champion, first, second, or 10th. By performing your best and you're winning. And that's what I'm all about. That's what the show's all about. It's time to win, folks. So enjoy yourselves, have a happy week, and be a great role model to your sphere of influence. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Big cheers. Buffer out. Have a great weekend.